The Blast from Our Past Network.
Imagine being one of the last people on Earth, being trapped alone with something not human, something always watching, something always waiting. What would you do? Where would you run? Where would you hide if you were haunted for 7 winters alone?
Podcasting After Dark presents 7 Winters Alone, a dystopian haunted house story by David Irons.
Available now in paperback and ebook.
Welcome to our Patreon exclusive interview series for Podcasting After Dark with your hosts Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer. Tonight's interview is with the star of Vamp, The All-Nighter, and ABC TV's Big Sky, actor Dedee Pfeiffer.
Ms. Dedee Pfeiffer, it is an honor for you to be on Podcasting After Dark with us. Thank you so much.
My honor. I'm so excited you guys invited me. My publicist, his name is Turk, but I call him Turkey. I was like, yeah, let's do that one. That's for sure. Are you kidding me?
Well, I don't know if he told you, but we broke down Vamp from scene by scene. Mm-hmm. Our podcast breaks down movies, and we chose Vamp and broke it down scene by scene. So in a very fun way, and oh my gosh, I mean, you stole the show in that film.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Well, Vamp was my baby. I always say Vamp, it was my baby before I had babies, because it was my first starring role. And so that's always a big thing for an actor, Yeah. And Emma was just so fun to play. I mean, oh my God, she's Emma. I mean, first of all, how can you not love a character named Amaretto?
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Well, and it was like a lot of times on the show, sometimes it'll be a new movie for me, like one I'd never seen before, and then sometimes vice versa for Zach. This time, I had never seen Vamp until I was 43 years old, and I can safely say that movie in 2021 holds up so well. Yes. It's such a fun ride from beginning to end, and honestly, we sang its praises for about three hours straight. So
thank you. My ears were nice and fuzzy that time of day for no reason.
Well, I was commenting on the fact that your style in that movie like rocks today, like Lady Gaga, I could see,
Yeah.
First of all, we're children of the 80s in the truest sense, both born in the, late 70s or whatever. But my son, who's 7 now, like he's very much immersed in 80s stuff because he just kind of goes along with whatever I'm into, right? As kids do sometimes. And, like the Tiger Prince and just the everything. Did you have any input to your style for that movie?
Not really. No, actually, again, I was really young. I was so excited. It's my first starring role. I felt like I was just kind of going on a moving train. I think everyone else was far more established than me. And then when they said that they were going to make Amaretto's costume, I got nervous. I was like, oh, that's going to be a little weird. But it turned out to be so special and so great. They kind of had to make it because we had the whole, like the sleeve going off and the tracking, that whole moment, which was so cute. Yeah. And then the pants, she like made them. The jacket she made. Yeah. Everything on Amaretto was made it. It was like the designer had this idea. And the same thing with her hair. We gave her the perm. And then we kind of curled the perm and blew it out, very 80s. And then on the one side, she had an inside out braid that went up and down and then spiraled down.
Very in fashion at the moment.
Yeah, it was like a concoction at the time. It was a concoction, like no one ever had done that, at least at that point that we were aware of. So there was really special, the making of Vamp. Have you guys ever seen the making of Vamp?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the story. I mean, there's the movie, is the making of the darn movie, which is a movie in itself. And then you have the movie, which thank you for saying that it stands up to this day, because that is hugely, that's flattering, because not a lot of films can do that.
Yeah.
And
No,
really
that's
that little black comedy I did back in the 80s is going to still be talked about today.
Well, I think it should be talked about even more because, the fact that From Dusk Till Dawn obviously was influenced by that. And it's a movie, like Corey said, it stands the test of time, in my opinion, because it's a snapshot into one night. We talked to Richard Wank about that, and I said it had elements of After Hours to me, a little bit of Scorsese's, and I love that wackiness of like what would happen if you're just dropped in the middle of nowhere with these quirky characters.
Yeah.
You, on the other hand, are very much not like the characters in After Hours, where you're not wrapping Griffin Dunn up in a body cast like Linda Fiorentino did, but you go on this wild adventure, and your moment at the end where you're like, okay, have you turned? Have you not turned?
Yeah.
It just stands out to me. And I pointed out on the episode how it was on at odd times on like HBO back in the day, right? It would be on at like 5 a.m. or something. Yeah. And I remember waking up and my mom would get me ready for school, and she'd have to be at work by 7. So I'd have to get up with her, and so I'm up at like 5:30, and I'm stumbling into the living room, turn the TV on, and Vamp would invariably be on all the time.
Oh, wow.
That final scene where you're having to go through the manhole cover and prove that you're not a vampire, well, forced into it, really.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what is this movie? And I need to see more of it. And then I did. Overall, after that movie was made, you say it's your baby. It was your first starring role. That's a lot of pressure, right?
I certainly put a lot of pressure on myself. That is, I always have, and I always did, and I try not to do that as much now. I'm in my 50s because it takes years off your life, and I really have every intention on 100. So if I'm going to do that, I got to really get off my own back, get out of my own way. So everything I was doing was like so important, because everything about Amaretto had to be on point, because I'm the lead, and I'm, all of this huge responsibility. And at the end of the day, we were having so much fun.
That's great.
Yeah, Richard Wank is just the most lovely, funny, talented man. I cannot give him more props for being my very first director that I worked with, who helped me carry that the female lead, and what that was like, with grace and integrity and humor and compassion for all of us, because we all got the shit beat out of making that film.
Totally.
Really did, but it was worth it, because at the end of the day, right, we were there to entertain and make a great movie.
Yep.
It didn't do what it should have done back then, but it's kind of beautiful that it has this resurge now, and maybe it wasn't supposed to be huge then. It's supposed to have like a rebirth now, kind of like me on Big Sky. Thursday nights, ABC, 10 o'clock.
Pitch it. Keep going. Sell it. Well,
yeah, I'm shameless. I will plug. I need to keep my butt employed, dude.
That's awesome.
I need to stay in the public eye, right?
No doubt. And I think that makes me, that comes to my next question, is that, oftentimes when we interview somebody from a movie that they've done way back when, and there are times when they're like, oh man, you want to talk about that movie, or they get sad with the idea of that it's a cult classic, quote unquote, because it didn't get the attention it deserved back in the day. But I feel like it is now, and that's important, right?
Oh, that's so interesting. I can see how someone might get sad, but I never viewed my career like that. Do you know what I mean? I never said, like, anytime I would go do a role, well, there was no such thing as a small role. You know what I mean? There was no such thing as small anything. It's as small as you view it to be. So I always thought it's kind of like a multidisciplinary team when you're going to tackle a social welfare issue. You need a lot of minds coming together to make it happen. And that's a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, right? I mean, unless you do a one-man show and it's you and your iPhone.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a whole other thing. Vamp is a labor of love with all of us. And, sure, it would have been nice had it been big then. But I think somewhere in my youth and my immaturity, I must have been okay with it. because I find it beautiful now that it has a rebirth. I call like me as an actor right now in Big Sky recycled. I was kind of hot there for a minute and was working, and then I disappeared for 10 years, went and got a degree, and then now I'm back. I'm recycled. I, kind of bring it back and, just kind of give it a facelift. Well, I can do that too, but you know what I mean? It's like recycled, right? And there's nothing wrong with recycling old goods. As a matter of fact, I should be doing that more often. So me being part of Vamp's kind of coming back and being recycled, I think it's exciting.
One of the things that because again, we do discuss mostly cult movies and everything, and one of the things that we speculate, because we're not there on set, but we speculate some of these movies hold up really well because you can actually feel the enjoyment that everybody had behind the scenes. It's that X factor that comes through the screen. Everyone was having a good time, no matter what was produced. Everyone's having a good time. And you said that y'all had fun on Vamp. Was that the kind of set that it was? Was it a relaxed set? I mean, I know you were there to do a job. I know everyone had a process and everything, but it was a fun set, right?
Oh my God, we laughed because we had a lot of pressure. I'm sure if you saw the making of Vamp, we had issues with getting Grace out of the trailer. I mean, that's no secret. I'm not throwing her under the bus. I love her.
No.
Yeah. I love her, but she wouldn't come out of the trailer, and it was killing us because we had to get the footage in 12-hour day. New World Production was going to take the movie from Richard if we didn't continue getting shots done. So because we had issues with that, Chris and I were forced to start filming scenes that we weren't prepared for. So we were always on our toes, but we had to laugh our way through it. Like Richard would be like, yeah, what's it? Grace came out of the trailer and we got the movie done. And then Chris would go, yeah, that's what happened. And Dedee didn't lose 10 pounds in a day and her wardrobe's falling off. And we just sit there and have so much fun making fun of these real things. Oh, a truck went through the sidewalk. We lost that location. Oh, the whole crew got sick. We lost, you know what I mean? We had somebody homeless get sick and sue us. I mean, we gave them food. We had Keith Haring, God bless him, and everyone else who was painting her body.
Yeah.
All of the artists who were amazing. Never did a film before, so they don't understand scheduling and timing, and time is money.
Yeah,
for
sure.
Why would they, right?
Yep.
And so it was kind of busting our kneecapping us. So and we never knew what Grace was going to look like. She came out of her dress when she would come out. We never knew what she was going to look like. So it was always that moment of, oh, is she in her costume? Yeah, that's her costume. But it's a coil on each tit and one on the coochie and one on the butt. And she's got a couple on her fingers and her ears or in her neck. That's her outfit. Oh, okay. Maybe she left it in the room. Nope. So we were always on our toes laughing because there was something just really crazy about the making of this movie, that if we weren't laughing, we were probably crying because we didn't want the film to ever be taken away from Richard. But Chris and I were like, we will quit the movie, and we're like, no. Richard's like, no, you're not. Let's just shut up. Anyway, we're young and mouthy. Well, we're not going to let you take our director. He's like, honey, we'll figure it out. We'll be fine. Just keep laughing through it. We'll get through it.
Oh, that's awesome. Richard Wink was a very nice guy, very approachable, very cool person. So I can only imagine, being on the set with him. So
I love him. I saw him a few years ago. Actually, we saw each other for the first time in years, and it was as if we hadn't missed a beat.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we just get each other's humor. We just, and like I'm his baby because I'm like I'm Amaretto, and that was I think that Amaretto was really close to his heart when he wrote that role.
Well, it really. Chris's character is great too, and everybody's really well written, obviously, but there's something about the uniqueness of your role, and it stands out. And I think that's, again, obviously that's why you're on our show and we're interviewing you for that, because it stood out to us. But then a year later you go on to make The All-Nighter, and that's a personal favorite of mine. I personally love that movie, and I was actually just talking about it the other day because I think like Joan Cusack had a birthday or something, and
I'm Joni,
yeah. And so I'm looking at the stills from the movie, and I'm just like, I watched that movie incessantly back in the day, and like what a fun kind of road trippy kind of film you guys did, in that sense of like banding together. And I think of like movies like Girls Just Want to Have Fun or Shag, and The All-Nighter could definitely be thrown in there as well as like this kind of bonding film. Yeah,
absolutely. And when I met Joan Cusack, we immediately bonded. and she was having issues with the boyfriend at the time, that because she came from Chicago, so she was here living with her boyfriend in a one room place or something, and they were having issues. So I went over and I moved her out with trash bags. We didn't have any boxes. I just trash bags, moved her shit, put her right in my single one room apartment, in Hollywood Hills, and we were living together through the whole movie.
Oh my God.
Joni and I were like freaking frack. It was so fun. That was a crazy movie. I kind of look back at some of the roles I played, and I don't think I ever really got it, that I was playing like these blonde characters, whatever that meant back then, because that actually certainly held a stigma to, the dumb blonde kind of thing.
Yeah, totally.
And I don't think there's anything really wrong with somebody who's, I call them effervescent or ethereal, or not as mindful of politics as all the rest of us, so they don't get so dark. They're kind of like, oh, you guys do that, I'm going to go over here with the butterflies. I love Mother Earth. And I always love playing those characters who are not like political or too intense.
Well, I feel like we need more people like that these days.
Get me started. That's a whole nother podcast.
For real. Well, yeah, we do go deep on our show sometimes, so feel free to do that if you're so inclined. But
I could go real dark real fast, but I won't do that. But
there's something. It's perspective. I think just pop culture reference right now. I think of somebody like Ted Lasso on TV and that character and how in many ways people say, oh, Zach, you're like a Ted Lasso guy. You're always upbeat and positive and always looking at things from a certain perspective. That's great, but there's also the other side that when the lights are off or the door is closed and you're not with anybody else and you realize, oh, but there's that other aspect of you as well. And I think you have your roles and your characters might have had that, ethereal kind of outlook and very upbeat, but then there's also the backstory of like, well, Corey specifically is really good with this, with creating a backstory for a character. What got them to where they are to this point, where they're bubbly or light, and there's got to be there's always got to be balance, right? There's always going to be that yin and yang, the darkness as well. And I want to see more of that too. I love that kind of like, okay, let's just have some fun, and I think that's one of the reasons why we love so many movies from the 80s, where maybe they don't go super deep in an introspective way, but at the end of it, you're feeling like, okay, I feel good about myself. I can move on with the rest of my day, and that's a good thing. And testament to you for playing the hell out of those roles.
Thank you. Yeah, because at the time it was like, oh, you're going to be tagged as the dumb blonde, and I mean, it only bothered me a little bit because the society said that I should be bothered by that. I wasn't considered a serious actor.
Yeah.
So of course I started doing the drama. And it's interesting because, as actors, we used to say, the funnier you are, the darker you are behind all that humor.
Yep.
So, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. If you look at Robin Williams and et cetera, some other cases where, if you were really sit down and talk to people who are really funny and light and what have you, I think we all have our demons. We all have our traumas. We all have, to what degree, right?
Yeah.
And how much you're running from them, or would you bring close? And this is why I loved, after a while, I did do drama, heavy drama.
Yeah, you did.
To kind of like go to that flip side. And then there's that beautiful medium, which I love, that you can be dark and tormented, but also funny. I love those. Those to me are the best. A little bit of everything, right?
Like a fully rounded character. Yeah, I think that a lot of times though, we want that effervescence but having just a touch of like realism, a touch of darkness in there. And I think that in Vamp she had it as well. You had it as well. It's just it was all there, whether it was in the script or not. It was there, still there in the screen, and I think that helped create a well-rounded character that still stands the test of time.
Thank you. And I got to give Richard that, because that was not only my work on who Amaretta was, but it's also in the writing, like you said.
Yeah.
There was this mystery through the whole movie. Was she a vampire? And there was something really fun about that. Just when you go, oh, no way, that character is way too cool, she is way too nuts. There's no way they would make her a vampire because she's just too crazy, And then you go, well, wait a minute, that actually could be really interesting, that she all of a sudden bears fangs and, bites Chris, right? So it's kind of like Big Sky. I don't tweet, but I heard that they think my character's all sketchy and Denise is in on it. And now they think I'm a mole. some followers are all angry now that they think Denise is Denise Big Sky, that I'm like this mole. And I kind of, at first I got my feelings hurt. I'm like, oh my God, how rude. Why would you think Denise is a mole? Who wants to be considered a mole? Not me. And I thought, Dedee, you're not Denise. Just hold on, honey, stop it. You take a big breath. And I realized that's kind of like Amaretto. You kept them thinking, you kept them wondering. So who knows if Denise is a mole or not? I don't know. And the writers may or may not know. We'll find out. Keep watching the show. You'll see, right?
Yeah, keep the ratings up. And
I'll know when I play it because I don't know, right? So, but that's fun when you have a character where, you're like enjoying the journey, watching them like you will with Amaretto and her lightness, but then you don't really know where her darkness is. How deep is how dark is her dark? Where is her dark?
Yeah.
Is she really the light in this piece? Is she any part of this crazy darkness? Because Vamp has all of that. It is a really special film. It's one, like I said, I have one of my followers, they said, was it you guys or somebody sent me the Cup Team Amaretto shirt?
It might have been Vamp After Dark.
Yeah, those are the guys. I love them. He sent me all this stuff that I like gonna wear, and I want to like take pictures of myself. And
yeah, you got to promote it, right?
Yeah, promoting my first film, which was back so long ago. Because a Team Amaretto or hashtag Amaretto. I mean, just like so cute.
Well, I think I love that you're so open to talking about your career in that way, because whether certain movies along the way were deemed, good or not, they leave a special place with a fandom, right? There's a fandom behind them. And you got to appreciate that. Oftentimes, one of the things about our show is we look at a film through a whole lens, not just one perspective, and say, look, there's a whole team that put this thing together. They did not go into this film, we've talked about movies in the past where the quality hasn't been all that great. But at the end of the day, we say, look, there was a team that made this film with the intention that it was going to be good. And you got to cherish that, and you got to champion that. And the people who put on those performances, whether it was edited one way or not, they worked their asses off, and you got to compliment them. And the fact that, we talk about the all-nighter, or you talk about Red Surf or something, when you go, oh gosh, we want to talk about that. Like that, to me, those are the movies that shaped who we are as film lovers. Personally, it wasn't, The Seventh Seal, and it wasn't, Nosferatu, or it wasn't, Citizen Kane or whatever. For me personally, it was the movies that like I can sit down and watch over and over and over again. And a movie like Vamp is one of those movies I can watch over and over and over again because it has so many layers to it for me personally. And again, it's not for everybody, but it is for us. And that's why you're here.
Thank you. I think you're talking about the working man's movie. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right, the working man's movie, because you can see the work that went into these movies. And there's a lot of factors that go into the final product, and as to whether or not it's palatable for people to say, oh, that is a good movie, right?
Yes.
Or not. There's a lot of moving pieces that have to work together at the same time for it to produce what one would consider an A quality film, right? Most films don't have the budget to go back in and make sure that happens. But what you do have, the way I feel it is, everybody goes in to make a movie. Hopefully their goal is to make the best movie they can. No one goes, let's go make a piece of shit movie.
Yeah, exactly.
That's that. Let's go hire a piece of shit writer and a piece of shit script and a piece of shit actor and a piece of shit lighting guy and a piece of shit sound and make a shit movie. I mean, who says that? No one that I know, any more than wakes up and says, hey, I want to be an addict. Yeah. I mean, recovery, by the way. But you know what I mean? Speaking of light and dark, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm over 3 years sober.
Oh, hey, that's awesome. Congrats.
Congratulations.
Everybody who's, recovering from addiction, man, I'm with you. Bros, theys, he, she's, and whatever, all in between. I'm 3 years. I get it. I know. During the pandemic, we were all white knuckling.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Going back I mean, I love that you guys said that, because I think a lot of people are really hard on not only just movies, just in general. There's just people are judgy. People get really judgy, and they forget to look at the bigger picture and all the levels and all the moving pieces.
Yeah.
To any one project. And that can really be anything in life if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
I don't think any chef goes to a restaurant and wants to serve you a piece of shit like meatloaf.
No.
Something happened in the kitchen. I don't know. I don't think his or her intention was to for you to go, ew, I'm going to give this a bad Yelp. That was terrible.
Well, and then you know, and then if you're gonna, poo-poo on something like Vamp, you're like, oh, I'm not gonna go see that. I mean, you're gonna miss so many amazing things about that. I mean, that movie's amazing from beginning to end. And again, I'm saying that as someone who's seen it for the first time in 2021. And my takeaways, I told Zach, I was like, where's Vamp been my whole life? And Zach's like, it's right there. It was right there, and you missed it. But like, for example, like that last shot when you guys were walking, into downtown,
so
and the life starts coming back into the city. And I'm watching this and I'm like, this is like one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in a movie. This shot right here, it's beautiful. It's wonderful. What it's saying is wonderful. What everything it's doing is wonderful. And we know the backstory behind it and everything, and like how it, but you would miss that. Like I'm like, you need to see this movie. Just like, it's just, there's so many beautiful moments you're going to miss if you if you just write things off and just be like, no, I don't want to see that,
That's a dated movie, and okay, well, all right. That's fine. I mean, there's some stuff that I've seen that's very dated, but if you get past that and you actually look at it for what it is, there's some really interesting, rich stuff to look at, study, research, or what have you. Do you know what I mean? And films are no different. Yeah.
Speaking of rich stuff, Corey runs a Seinfeld podcast, and
so yeah, we just we're about halfway through season 7. So we got to the opposite, a few months ago. Yeah, I was watching. I was like, I know her.
Yeah.
How was that experience?
Dude, that was crazy. I mean, my whole career, I look back and go, wow, I was just kind of going through the paces and not really ever understanding the magnitude of any one thing that I did until now at 57. I'm reflecting back, and people in interviews go, you know that you were in Seinfeld in a very monumental episode. And I go, no, I just thought that I got a gig. I finally got a Seinfeld back then. That was like the holy grail. Like, you got a Seinfeld, you were on the map.
Right.
And they kept interviewing me. I'd been interviewed a few times to play an opposite. I'm Jerry. Never got it. And then by the time this one came around, I said to my agent, why do they keep calling me in? They never pick me. It's just so torturous. And he's like, oh, honey, clearly they like you. They just can't figure out what to do with you. So just zipper, go in there and give it your best. Do what you do, because you're doing something right. I go, no, I'm doing something wrong, So I went in and I guess I did something right, and I got that. And smash cut, how many years later, I look back and people like you remind me, oh shit, that was huge.
Yeah.
But when I was doing it, I didn't get the magnitude of it because I was too busy trying to jump on a well-oiled moving train, is what it felt like. That crew, that cast, man, polished. They knew what they were doing. Everybody was like class A, and I had never done that before. And I was like, you just kind of following the lead, just like a deer in the headlights. Just they point, and I would go and do it. And I'm surprised I didn't like throw up on myself and run off stage and go home and cry, because I was a nervous wreck. Because I guess I think I did understand the magnitude of it. They were amazing. They're amazing.
Well, I mean, you came off perfectly, and it's such a seminal episode. I'm just like, wow, that's huge. That's a huge episode right there, and it's a lot of fun. That your scene and everything's a lot of fun.
Well, dude, it's really funny. Actually, just reminded me, because my memory's so shot. It was shot back then because Jason Alexander reminded me that I had met him before with George Clooney, because George and I go way back, right?
Yeah, Red Surf.
So he goes, Dee, remember, we've met, and I'm going, I'm just so bad. Now I'd be like, I'm sorry, I have no memory of meeting you. I'm sorry, I just don't. I'm just very transparent. I have to be that way in recovery. But back then I'm like, oh yeah, of course. He goes, yeah, remember I was in George's car and we came in, we picked you up and we went to lunch. I'm like, yeah, oh my God, how are you? I went back home. We didn't have cell phones back then. And I called George. I go, what the hell? He's like, yeah, dude, he was in the car when we met. I was like, oh shit, I have no memory. Oh, you're doing Seinfeld? I go, yeah, that's cool, right? So he goes, Dee, you met him before. I go, shit, I don't remember.
Oh no.
Don't tell him you don't remember. I go, I didn't. Not his fault that I'm brain dead already at the young age in my 20s. I was already going brain dead, so it's not much better now.
Well, at least he didn't call you on that, right? Like there's this great comedian named Brian Regan who does a whole bit on not knowing people's names or things about them. And so someone's like, hey, how are you? And he's like, hey there, buddy. Like, my name's not Buddy.
Oh yeah. Do you remember people I call Cupcake,
Yeah.
Sugar Bunny? I'm like, hey, dude, what's up? Hey, yeah, hey, cutie, hey, beautiful.
I'm partial to the guy. I'm always like, hey, guy, what's up?
Oh, what's up, bro? Right? Hey, girl. Hey, girl.
Yeah.
Whenever I start doing that, my friends go, oh, shit, you don't know their name. I'm like, this is when you jump in and you save my ass and you say, hi, I'm Jill. What's your name? And then we both hear it again.
There you go.
It's good to have friends like that. My wife knows if I call someone guy like 3 times in a row, she's like, okay, I got to find out their name for him. You got to have those like partnerships, you know?
I'm single now, so I just don't leave the house. I go out and somebody inevitably goes, Dee, and I go, oh, I start shaking, going, oh, I know, I don't know this person. Before I even turn around, I know I don't know that person.
Well, you know, and you're talking about with being 3 years sober, which is fantastic, by the way, and you know, Mazel Tov. I don't know what.
I'll take all. Yeah.
Good on you. And you went through the pressure you're talking about with Seinfeld and wanting to hit it or getting that next gig, right, and getting that next role and constantly chasing. And I don't think people necessarily who are in the industry understand that you're constantly having to get that gig. And I think oftentimes people will say, oh yeah, but you made that big movie and you got that big contract. It's not like that. You're a working performer. You have to go from one thing to another constantly. It's hard.
You're always like, when you're in a job and you're like halfway through that, you start immediately future tripping about your next gig.
Yeah.
You know, and you're always future tripping about your next gig because they say you're as good as your last project. Well, sometimes your last project didn't even get released. Okay. So there you got that, all that work and maybe it went right to video. And then, you know, like you were saying, 10 people saw it, but they liked it. Those 10 people liked it, but you know, that's beautiful, but that's not going to help you with your next gig the way the industry is set up. It was a lot of pressure. It's another reason why 10 years ago, actually now 13 years ago, I was like, yeah, Miss Pfeiffer's checking out for a minute. I'm going to go get some degrees to help people in the world. Cause I want to become part of the solution, not the problem, by sitting around bitching. And I thought, well, you know, we can all sit and point fingers and bitch, but how about if I actually actively get an education in the arena of things that I'm interested in, which are social welfare issues, right?
Awesome. It's awesome.
But the whole industry pressure is crazy. I remember I was on a hit show called For Your Love, Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Then it got, you know, like every show, it came to its end, which is sad. It's another show people really, really still follow and they love it. And like not a week later, I went back to Warner Brothers to interview for something else, already stressing about my next gig, right? But I haven't gotten the last check from the last episode of the last show I was on, already stressing about the next gig. No guarantees I was going to get hired again because we're all unemployed, you know. And I went back and they were like, and I had a spot there and they said, oh, hey, Dedee, how you doing? I go, yeah, I'm just here for an interview. They said, you got to park across the street. And then go to the booth, go get the little thing. And then they're going to validate you. And then you have to walk across the street. And then you got to go through. I was like, dude, I just rap For Your Love. And they're like, well, you're not in the show anymore, so your spot's now gone.
Oh.
At that moment I realized, whoa, this is some hardcore shit that we as actors go through, that, like you were saying, people, this is not woe is me as an actor.
No.
It's not that. But less than 1% of actors at any given time do work.
Yeah.
So when people ask me, what advice? I say, well, damn sure. You really want to do it for the right reasons, and you better be okay with hearing no a lot.
Yeah.
If 99.9% don't work. Remember, 200 might go out for that role. Only one gets it.
Right.
199 they were told no, and they could have probably been better for the role. Or who knows who got what role? Right? It's very political sometimes. No,
totally.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of factors that go into it. Yeah.
I was going to say, I was a teacher for a number of years. Kindergarten teacher. And then
that's why I loved you. You have such a good smile.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. It was it was not what I expected to get into. And then I ended up doing it for like 15 years and obviously loved it. And then transitioned into voice acting. And I equated it to being in a long-term relationship versus going out on a date every night and spending a bunch of money on somebody and never hearing from them ever again. And being like, wait, but I thought we had a thing, you know, going through this auditioning process. Yeah. And it was a total mind shift for me because I went from steady, constant, safe, good to suddenly very unstable, very insecure, all over the place, you know, and you have to have a fortitude. You have to have, and I don't know if that comes with getting older, education, spirituality, whatever. You find that thing that gets you to a place of not worrying as much anymore, or not letting the worry take you over, right? And that's a hard thing for people. I think that's a hard thing for people in general now, especially with the pandemic, you know.
Oh yeah, the pandemic, I would hope, has made us all reevaluate our definition of priorities.
Yes.
Wow. Right. I hope. Some maybe not so much, and that's all right. That the journeys looks different. But you're absolutely right. I think there's a lot of factors that go into that. I think age is certainly one of them. Life knocks, and how one goes through those knocks. You know, listen, life's going to throw some shitballs at you. That's called life.
Yeah.
It's not about whether or not life's going to throw shitballs at you. This is what I tell my teenage boys. I'm a single mom. Look, life's going to throw shitballs at you. It's not about that. So just get over that right now. Just embrace that, lean into it. Okay. Yep. It's how you deal with the shitballs being thrown at you. Are you going to dodge them? Are you going to run from them? Or are you going to take it between the eyes? I mean, what, you know, are you going to be like, whoa, hold, you know, I mean, you're going to put a mitt on and catch it?
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, both my boys, same dad, but totally different boys. Yeah. Each of them take the knocks differently. Wow. They couldn't be more polar opposite, you know? So there's that too.
Through this chaos, you're still filming. You're working, like you said. You went back to school. You bettered yourself in a totally different career, and then you transition back to the screen, and with Big Sky, and you're continuing to find a lot of success and fun on that show, right? During a very odd time of constantly probably getting tested every week and all that good stuff.
Oh, 3 times a week. My nose is violated 3 times a week. I would say actually I'm going to be violated today at 2:00. Oh
gosh. Well, I hope your violation goes pleasantly as possible.
During the pandemic, when you're isolated, hey, I mean,
stranger things have happened.
Gotta get your kicks.
One pick and what's going on.
You got to take it where you can get it.
With freaking wild turkeys and donkeys and shit, which I love. But yeah, it's one of the world situation and the pandemic and everyone's journey. It's I think that we're all about to go through a lot of change. We're not done with this pandemic yet.
No.
But we certainly are towards the other side of the spectrum of it, and hopefully, like anything in life, what are you going to take from it, right? Yeah. And if nothing, that's okay. That's your journey. Or if you're going to be more angry because of it, that's okay too. I mean, a lot of people I know lost everything and had to rediscover who they are, and inadvertently, accidentally found actually a better life, you know, and they didn't think that could happen. I remember when I was in school, they were saying, no, online therapy, no, that's not HIPAA and that's not this. And, you know, and I remember raising my hand going, why not? I know a lot of people, including myself, I have a lot of resentment going parking and then going to see my therapist and waiting in the room and pushing the button and having to take a shower. I mean, there's a lot of resentment around that. And I'd go in and bitch for the first 15 minutes about how there was traffic.
Exactly.
And I'm spending $150 on bitching about traffic and your parking and why did you let me sit out there for 5 minutes with the light on? Did you not know I was, you know, I'm like, there's a lot of drama going on there. And smash cut, now online therapy is huge because we were forced to make it happen. But back when I was going to school and a psych major, they were like, oh no, they poo-pooed all that. And I remember I was very much that person in school who was raising my hand. Dorothy in the back of the, oh God, there's that woman, Dorothy in the back who always raises her hand. I'm like, hi, I have a question.
Good. We need people like that.
So some kids loved me. Some were like, oh God, can she stop asking questions? And I'm like, listen, I'm in my 50s and I'm in college with you young bucks. You're all worried about whether you look good in your jeans or not. I don't give 2 F's about what you look in your jeans. I got to go pick up my son at soccer practice. I'm trying to figure out what the lesson is in this to get through this midterm. So I can get my license so I can get in the world and try to help people.
For real.
I'm not messing with you people. Come on. I don't understand what the professor's talking about. No one's taking their hand.
They're just hoping that happy hours tonight. We can go get some free drinks,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then there was I drank my way through college.
I did too.
Talk about a difference. Yeah, I had my last year in college with a 2-year master's program at UCLA. Before you get all impressed, I went to college, or the community college route, for 8 years. 8, 7, 8 years. I did the community college. It took me all that time to get an AA and a BA because I didn't know what I was doing. I had a learning disability that was finally detected in school. I just thought it was stupid growing up.
Yep.
And then in college, they were like, wait, something's up with you. So they tested me. Sure enough, I had learning disabilities. And once those were accommodated, I started getting A's and Pell Grants. And so I went through, talk about feeling insecure. I went through just thinking I was stupid my entire life until, learning disabilities were detected. I got help, extra help. And then college became a whole lot easier.
You dropped a lot of moments there where I'm like, oh my gosh, that's huge. Oh my gosh, that's huge. One was the fact of online therapy. And I thought about my own personal therapist that I went to back in the day. And yeah, for the first 7 minutes, we bullshitted about practically nothing. And I'm like, wait, this is my time we're eating up. Oh boy, because you're going to cut me off at the hour mark and we're going to be split, 15
minutes if you really want to go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, right. But then in the learning disability part and thinking you were stupid, I think that was one of the reasons why I wanted to be a teacher back in the day, because I wanted to right the wrongs of the things that had happened to me as a kid. Oftentimes people are like, oh, I was so inspired by this teacher. Oh, I had there was a carpenter that I loved his woodwork and that's why I wanted to be a carpenter. That's fine. That's awesome. Like, I wish the world was more like that. But then I had the opposite where it was like, oh, this guy was a dick. This was a terrible teacher who told me I was a horrible artist or whatever. And then you want to right those wrongs. So you go through life feeling that you're stupid, feeling that you're less than.
Yeah.
But you became an actor where everything.
How that happened, dude. Right?
It's so kind of torturous, right? But in a way, like psychologically, you dig deep into like there's something there. Maybe you're like, well, but this you were able to bring out another side of yourself to compensate for this feeling of like, I'm stupid. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm so glad it's diagnosed now. You're saying, you said that because of the pandemic, we were forced to do these certain things. Getting people to learn that there is a learning difference, there's a disability, whatever you want to call it, at a time when you were like, no, you're dumb. You're a lost cause. You're going to flunk out of school.
Dude, I graduated in 82.
Yeah.
So if you do the math, when I went to school, there was a math and reading group 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, that's it.
The bright ones. 2 were all the average kids, and 3 were the Bobby who ate paste. Yeah. And all the rest of us who they didn't know what the hell was going on with us because there was no such thing as assessing for learning disabilities. Right. I now become this huge advocate for Bobbies who eat paste. I'm like, do not mess with my Bobby. I will fuck you up.
Yeah.
How that turned out to be my calling later in life because they shoved me because I was told you're this.
Yep.
And I believed that my entire life until I got to college and they said, wait a minute. Isn't that interesting, huh?
It's a beautiful thing. I'm so glad you're doing that. Obviously, you're entertaining us, in one way, but you're also giving back in another. And that's not something that everybody has the opportunity to do. And the fact that you're a mom and you're raising your kids, single mom, and shout out to all single moms.
All and single dads, single peeps. I get you.
Yeah. Zach and I were both raised by our mom, so mad respect.
See, I love hearing that. Can you guys look at you here? And this inspires me because I got a 15-year going on 36, and then I got a 19-year-old who moved out before I got here to Albuquerque, and he's out there on his own. And well, he's not too far. He's living with my sister. Before that, he was living in his grandma's guest house. But anyways, I'm not making him breakfast anymore, and that breaks my heart. But you never really, speaking of that, talk about jumping around, but the whole parent thing, I always say you never really know whether or not, oh, you must be such a great mom. I'm like, are you kidding me? There are days I feel like I'm on my game. I'm like, oh yeah, man, I'm a good mom today. Look at me, I got an A on the mommy report card. Other days I am failing. I got an F.
Yeah.
My kids will tell me.
Yeah.
Like, get out of my lane, Mom. I wish I never would have taught them that. You are all in my lane. Get out of my lane. And I'm like, you know. And especially when I was in my addiction, as anybody who's, you know, suffering from alcoholism, which was my thing, I was a high functioning alcoholic, but nevertheless, there's some shit back there that's not very pleasant for them or me to have to remember. That's really hard to say,
Yeah.
but it's my truth.
Yeah.
It's part of my history back there.
Yeah.
There is healing back there, but the healing is in the now. And what I can do now is tell them that I love them. And this is what recovery looks like. I get to show them this is what recovery looks like. You know, they saw what it looked like when their mom was in their disease. And now they know what it looks like to be in recovery and to be sober and to be accountable, right? And transparent. And if God forbid they ever have any issues with addiction or mental health, because I was also riddled with trauma. Oh, the trauma was stupid. That they now know, they know their mom's a soft landing. That's all I can do. I can't.
But that healing that you're going through and you're talking about it. It also, you know, hearing it also helps other people, because I feel like we see so much, you know, we see the disease 9 times out of 10. We don't see the person who's fought it, who's still fighting. I know it's an ongoing thing, but someone who's living with recovery. But that is just as necessary to our fabric of society for us to see the path. Because sometimes it's just all a person needs is like, what's the path? So I can at least go on it, you know, and you're offering, you know, just by your existence kind of offers a path for people or to show them. And that should never be like understated, you know, that is huge right there.
It's understated because there's shame.
Yeah.
That's riddled, and it revolves around any addiction. It doesn't matter what your DOC is, your drug of choice, alcohol, heroin, meth, sex, gambling, what have you. Anything that's to an obsessive point where it's affecting us in a negative way is an addiction. And then you throw in addiction's best friend is trauma. They love each other.
Yeah.
Undiagnosed, untreated trauma. You throw those together and you've got a nice mixture for either somebody, unfortunately, who's probably gonna be out on the streets, or someone like me, high functioning and running and hiding my entire life up until finally I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's exhausting. I'm killing myself. And it was true, right? But so people need to know that there are high functioning alcoholics or addicts, and that the shame is real. Social stigma is real.
Yep.
If people like me and the Robert Downey Jr.'s and all the other people out there that are going, hey, like Robert said something so funny the other day. I don't know him personally, but I'd love to. I mean, his sobriety just inspires the shit out of me.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He got a lot of heat when he got sober, and they said a lot of shit about him that really made me mad. But anyways, he was like, you know, I'd like to think about having a glass of wine with dinner sometimes, but then I remember I have plans for Christmas. And I'm like, right? That is such an addict thing to say, because it takes one drink or one hit of meth or one episode of gambling or whatever, or just, you know, if it's sex addict, whatever, right? Once you start in the rabbit hole of the behavior, all that shame comes back and it's tenfold. And sometimes you don't make it back. I've had to bury 3 people. Two were my son's friends from addiction, and one I went to rehab with in his 20s. I mean, it's just, and my story's not rare.
No.
But I think if I can help be part of the conversation, I'm helping a little bit. If I can be transparent about my journey, I went to rehab. It was embarrassing to no end, in the sense that I was in my 50s through menopause. Dedee fucking Pfeiffer, and I'm on the floor crying to strangers I've never met before, never been more vulnerable. And it saved my life. And I love those people that I was crying with for a month straight when I was isolated from society, no phone, no computer, did not see my children, did not see anybody for 30 months intensive inpatient.
Wow.
And I did a year in intensive outpatient. And I love addicts in recovery. We're awesome people. We are textured, man. We got stories.
Yeah.
Stories that make movies.
Yeah, I ran a summer camp this past summer, a Greek mythology summer camp. I actually talked to Richard about it. He's like, I wish I had that when I was a kid. It was like with actors.
Oh my God,
and
me too.
yeah, it was amazing. It was like 5 weeks in totally immersive, amazing stuff. And one of my employees, she was in recovery and very young. And she and I became good friends, and she needed a mentor. I recognized that. And I recognize that as just as a teacher in general, and how valuable that is. And especially, like you said, you are a voice for the people, supporting them. And with with no judgment. Like you said earlier, there's some people who are so judgy. Taking this back to the beginning of the interview, people can be so judgy about things, and I myself battle with judgment. I think we all do. I think it's
here on my soapbox.
yeah, we all do. And
I have to catch myself and go, or my son will say, "Mom, that's so not like you." Because every once in a while I'll get a hair up my, and I'll be all, he's like, "It's very judgy," and I'm like, "I know." And then I'll be, wow, that you're right. It doesn't feel good. For a minute it did. And then I'll be out, and then I'm like, that was ugly. That was ugly.
But sometimes we have to wear all the faces. Like sometimes we have to experience all the emotions, Yeah.
Listen, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to be a saint. I'm not.
No, you're human.
I'm not even religious, for hell's sake. Why would I want to be a saint?
Yeah.
I'm spiritual. I believe in Mother Earth. I believe in something greater than me. I totally believe in paranormal and aliens. Yoo-hoo. I'm in New Mexico. I got a little Casper going on in my house. Something in the sky the other night. I woke up at 4:30 with a headache. I haven't had a headache in 1,000 years, literally since I drank. So I woke up at 4:30 with a raging headache. But I woke up and I was like, what the heck? And I look up at the sky and there's this light, but it was odd, long, and it was kind of floating.
Yep.
It was flying but floating, and I thought, oh, I don't have my glasses. So I got my glasses. I look up and I'm like, oh, I need some Advil. And I never take Advil. I'm like, oh, this one's a zinger. I'm taking Advil. And I look, and as I was looking at it, it disappeared. And I went, wait, what? If that's a plane, why did they just go black in the sky? So I waited, even with this throbbing headache. I was like, oh, I'm going to see that thing resurface again, because I think I just saw one. I think I just saw a UFO. I think I did it. And I was sitting there on the couch with this raging headache for a good 5 minutes. And then a plane came in the other direction. And I went, oh my God, that's a plane. What I saw was not that.
Yep.
That thing never came back, whatever it was. And I went and got my Advil, and I laid on the couch and went, no one's going to believe me. I just saw a UFO, and I don't care if they believe me. But all of a sudden, I felt like I was one of those people who talk about it. People think they're nuts. And I thought, I'm one of them now. I know what I saw.
Yeah, you're like, but I know what I saw, and I want it too much, so I never see anything.
Yeah, you want
and
it
every
bad.
time,
you want
and
it
every
bad.
time I'm out here in Oregon hiking in the woods, I'm like, come on, Sasquatch, show me. But
come on,
no,
Sasquatch.
We'll have food together. Yeah, I know people are literally like, I'll have a beer with that guy. I'm like, me too.
Yeah.
I mean, something brushed against my leg in the kitchen. Now remember, I'm in Albuquerque. Something brushed up against my leg in the middle of the night, and I looked down, and it was not my Rottweiler or my cat or my cockatoo, because she was sleeping. And I looked down, and of course I wrote it off as, oh, it must have been some weird vein with some blood running through. I mean, immediately tried to write it off.
Yeah.
Stopped and said, wait a minute, Dedee, did something just brush up against your leg? And I was like, yes. And I went, no one's gonna believe me. That's one of those.
Because if you have to do that much mental gymnastics to kind of try to logically write it off, it's like, no, just lean into it. You know what I mean?
I really want to believe in it so bad that when it actually has happened to me now, I'm so like, wait a minute, I have to make sure, because people think I'm nuts anyways. This is not going to help.
Yeah.
But if I'm running around saying that I'm feeling things that aren't there, I'm seeing things that are disappearing, they're going to be like, okay, my friends who are social workers are going to 5150 me, right? But here in New Mexico, they embrace all of that.
Yeah.
They've had 3 shamans in the area that I'm living in before I rented this house I'm in. They had 3 shamans come in, in and do major work on this little area that I'm in, because the neighbors all of them were having issues with some energies.
Yeah. Yep.
That were having, I guess you'd probably say, having troubles moving on. They were creating some ruckus, scaring their children, scaring even the adults. The animals were spooked. And I was like, well, wait a minute, did you scare them all away? Because I want to like have a beer with them, but I want to have a coffee with them,
Just bring one over here. Just come on, just leave one in my house. It's okay.
I get nervous that it'll turn into the entity, but
Yeah.
you don't have foil on your head though, so you're pretty good to go.
I do have a little funky hair thing going on too.
That's a little
it's on video.
samurai
my
pop.
foil's in the closet, so I'll get it later.
But I have to tell you, this has been such an honor to have you on our show and talk to you as a person, not just like, hey, I'm promoting Big Sky on ABC coming.
I did land that a few times because I wanted to be employed and I want ABC to fire me.
No,
because all my interviews are about like paranormal stuff and addiction, and they're like, remember, you're on the sky.
No, that's why I just said, watch Big Sky on ABC. You're awesome. And this has been a pleasure.
Vamp is awesome.
Thank you.
Really is. I think to take the time and to be as vulnerable and candid with us. I don't care, raw, whatever you want to call it. Some people don't have a problem with it. Some people do. Like the fact that you were so open to talk about anything and everything. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. This has really been a beautiful, beautiful time with you guys. Really awesome.
Where can we catch Big Sky again?
Oh yeah, Big Sky Thursday nights, 10 p.m. ABC. That's a new night. Last season we were Tuesday. This season we're Thursday night. But you can binge us on Hulu if you missed the first season or the first 3 episodes, which have already aired. Yeah.
There you go.
And Denise, this season we find out she carries a Glock.
Oh, nice.
Back in heat.
What that means, like the writers always write these little things, and then we go, "What does that mean?" And the audience is like, "I figured it out," and I'm like, "Glad you have, because I don't know yet. I don't have the next script."
Move over, John Wick.
Denise carries a Glock. It is Montana.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
And plus, you have all these crazy people running around killing everybody. Of course, she carries a gun.
I mean, Montana. We look forward to, who knows, one of these days running into you at a.
Yeah, have me back when the show keeps going. Things are going to happen like crazy. So, I mean, I'm guessing, I have no idea. We better, if you want a third season, we better start making it a little,
right.
Sauce.
Some cheddar.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much. This was a huge, huge honor.
Thank you. My honor. Thank you so much.
Aw, take care.
Have a beautiful day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Podcasting After Dark's exclusive interview series with Dedee Pfeiffer. And, as always, thank you for your support.
On the winter solstice, when the lasting darkness threatens to descend upon the land of Atalan once united, Magi in training, Wilt Garen, and his shepherd, warrior in training, Bredain Adair, must find an ancient lost weapon before the ultimate ancient evil returns to the world of Eos. Hi there, I'm Adiella Jackson, writer of the First Noel's Chronicle podcast. The First Noel is an epic, family-friendly adventure told in serialized form. Think of it as Lord of the Rings meets, well, Christmas. Join us each week for the next thrilling chapter of The First Noel, now available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and all major podcasting apps, as well as Kindle Vella if you want to take a read. Thanks, and see you in Atalan. The Winter Tell is almost here.